Hello everyone, I'm JG and welcome back to Music Forever, where today we're reviewing the new album from Beck, Colors. Alright folks, so yeah, we're talking about the new Beck album here today, Colors, and this is an album that I've kind of been anticipating for a while now, considering that the lead single from this project, Dreams, was actually released back in 2015. It was June of 2015 when that song first dropped. In its initial form, that is, because the album version that we have here is a different version of the song. More on that later. But yeah, we got that single, back in 2015, which was obviously over 2 years ago now at this point. Then we got the second single from this project in June of 2016, so over a year ago at this point. And now we're getting the final full project, which it's been a bit of a wait, I guess you could say, in that regard, just between these long gaps in some of the singles and when we get the actual final product. But here it is, and I'd have to say that this is actually a pretty enjoyable album, in my opinion at least. Of course, Beck, I'm not going to act like I'm the most familiar person when it comes to everything that he's ever done. I have heard, the essential albums from him, and the likes. I know his significance just kind of in the world of music, I guess. I enjoyed his last album, so, I did have high hopes for this one. But this album here, it's just a really fun album, I guess you could say. Beck has always been a bit of a weird, eccentric sort of figure when it comes to his music and just what he decides to do with his albums. But here on this album, he definitely takes it in a direction that I think is definitely a bit poppier, but still not in a bad way, I guess you could say. He does the whole pop rock, maybe even at times sort of 80s throwback thing a lot better than I think some artists have done in recent years. I wouldn't really say that on this album there's too many moments that are just kind of really weird and out there. The song structures and just the overall sound of the project is just a more typical sort of 80s styled pop rock type of record, I guess. But it does so just really well. It just manages to be really solid and really fun in its execution, which I think is the thing about it that works so well. When I was listening to the opening track here, the title track, I initially wasn't exactly sure how I felt about the track, just given that, during the chorus, it was kind of this layered kind of vocal part with, pitch shifting, I guess you could say, and all this stuff going on. I wasn't quite sure how I felt about that, but with repeated listens, it did grow on me, and I do think the opening is kind of solid and a nice showcase of, just the overall aesthetic that this album was going to be going for in the whole, grand scheme of things. Now to go back to the two singles I mentioned earlier, Dreams and Wow. Dreams, first of all, like I mentioned before, it's a different version of the track that appears here on the album compared to the single that we got, over 2 years ago at this point. And overall, I have to say, the versions of the songs aren't super different from each other, but, I really don't care either way. Both versions are fine in my opinion. I do think it's one of the more solid tracks here on the album. And, I believe that the original version of the song is also included as, a bonus track on some editions of this album, at least on Spotify. I did see that it was, a bonus track there. So, yeah, maybe you can get that when you pick up the album if you want, I guess. And then we have Wow, which is definitely one of the more interesting tracks here in the track listing in terms of its sound, because this track definitely kind of goes for, dare I say, a trap-inspired kind of instrumental to a degree. Not like a full-blown trap hip-hop song or anything like that, but you could definitely hear in the percussion that that's kind of what it's going for to some degree. But it manages to mix that sound in nicely with the rock sound that Beck just kind of typically provides, and it overall just manages to work well. And it's kind of a combination that when most groups or artists try something like this out, it just fails miserably. But Beck here manages to make it work almost effortlessly. And I mentioned earlier in this review, Beck's the kind of person, just a very eccentric kind of figure in terms of what sounds he tends to draw from on his albums. So, it is, I guess you could say, a bit more expected that he would do something like this, I guess, compared to some other artists that in recent memory have decided to try to do stuff like this. But still, he just manages to pull it off so much better than them, and it's just, it's a very solid song is what I'm trying to get at. Wow is, wow. Well, this is pretty good. That was a horrible joke, I'm sorry. Cut that out. And throughout this album, there's just so many catchy choruses that just get stuck in my head going through it, like the beforehand mentioned Colors, Dreams and Wow, also kind of similarly, but also some of the other tracks we have, especially in the first half of this album, like No Distraction, which I think is probably my favorite song here on the project. Just, lots of these songs, Dear Life as well, just really catchy songs And it just shows that Beck can definitely write a good, catchy sort of pop song when he wants to. And like I said, I know he's a pretty eccentric figure when it comes to what style of music he's doing at any given time. But when he wants to pull off a more pop rock sound, he does it well. That's all I'm saying. And while I think that the first half of this project and the few tracks that follow immediately after, like Dreams and Wow, are very solid, the last 3 tracks on the album are probably my least favorites, and at this point they just don't really stand out quite as much. Like, they still manage to pull off the same sort of vibe that the rest of the album has, but they're not quite as catchy or stand out to me at this point. I don't know. They're not bad songs by any means, they just don't stand out to me quite as much as the other tracks on the album. But still, I do like the majority of the project, and I think it stands out as being very solid overall. And the album length as well is just very good, very consistent. It's about 40 minutes in length. It doesn't overstay its welcome, doesn't feel like it's not giving you enough content though. It's like the perfect length for an album, I'd have to say. And overall, it works in the album's favor that its length isn't super stretched out or super short, really. So yeah, overall, I'd have to say that this is, just a very solid, very enjoyable, very fun kind of pop rock album that's kind of a bit of a throwback, in the sense that it has sort of an 80s vibe to it. And I know it's very common for albums nowadays, but this one manages to pull it off pretty well in my opinion. So if you're a Beck fan, if you're a fan of this type of music that I was just describing, you should definitely check out this project because, like I said, it is pretty solid and there are some very solid songs on here as well. So yeah, definitely check it out. And if you enjoyed this review, make sure you leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future album reviews and other music-related content. Comment down below your thoughts on the album. Follow me on all my social media linked in the description below. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay golden.